The afternoon sun beat down on the outdoor firing range in San Diego, California. Sarah Mitchell wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stood in lane 7, her hands trembling slightly as she loaded another magazine into her 9mm handgun. She had been coming to this range every Saturday for the past 6 months, ever since the incident that changed her life forever. Sarah was a 32-year-old elementary school teacher with no prior experience with firearms. 6 months ago, someone had broken into her apartment while she was sleeping. She woke up to find a stranger standing in her bedroom doorway. The police arrived in time, but the fear never left her. That night, Sarah decided she would never feel that helpless again. The range was busier than usual that Saturday. Military personnel from the nearby naval base often used the facility, and today was no exception. Sarah tried to focus on her breathing, just like the instructor had taught her during her concealed carry class. Inhale slowly, exhale, squeeze the trigger gently. But her shots were still scattered across the target, nowhere near the center rings she aimed for. She set down her weapon and pressed the button to bring her target forward. As the paper silhouette moved toward her on the motorized cable system, she felt her shoulders slump. Out of 15 shots, only 3 had hit anywhere near the center mass. The rest were scattered wildly across the target, with 2 completely missing the paper altogether. A deep voice spoke from behind her. "Mind if I use the lane next to you?" Sarah turned to see a man in his mid-30s, wearing a simple gray t-shirt and jeans. He had the kind of build that suggested serious physical training, with broad shoulders and muscular arms that seemed almost too big for his shirt. His hair was cut short in a military style, and his eyes had a sharp, focused quality that made Sarah feel like he could see right through her. "Sure, go ahead," Sarah said, stepping back to give him space. The man nodded and set down a large black case in lane 8. Sarah tried not to watch as she clipped a fresh target to her own cable system and sent it back down range. She could hear the man methodically setting up next to her, but she forced herself to concentrate on her own practice. She raised her weapon again, trying to remember everything she had learned. Proper stance, feet shoulder-width apart, slight bend in the knees. At firm grip with the dominant hand, support hand wrapped around it. Front sight focus. But when she fired, the results were the same. The bullets went everywhere except where she wanted them to go. Frustration bubbled up inside her. She had been practicing for months, spending money she could barely afford on ammunition and range fees. She had watched countless YouTube videos, read articles, and even taken a second training class. But nothing seemed to help. Her groupings were still terrible, her accuracy barely better than when she had started. The man in the next lane began firing. Sarah couldn't help but glance over. His shots came in controlled pairs, each one precisely placed. When he brought his target forward, Sarah saw that every single bullet hole was clustered in the center of the target, many of them overlapping. It was the kind of shooting she had only seen in movies. Sarah felt a pang of envy mixed with despair. She would never shoot like that. Maybe she just wasn't cut out for this. Maybe some people were naturally good with guns, and she simply wasn't one of them. She loaded another magazine and sent her target back out. This time she tried even harder to focus. She slowed her breathing, double-checked her stance, and carefully aligned her sights. She squeezed the trigger slowly, just as she had been taught. The shot went wide, hitting the very edge of the target. "Damn it," Sarah muttered under her breath. She fired again. Another miss, this one not even hitting the paper. She could feel tears of frustration building in her eyes. This was supposed to make her feel safer, more confident. Instead, she just felt incompetent. "Excuse me," the man's voice said again. Sarah turned, quickly wiping her eyes. "Yes?" "I don't mean to intrude," he said, "but I couldn't help noticing you're having some trouble. Would you mind if I offered a few pointers?" Sarah's first instinct was to say no. She didn't need some stranger, probably some military guy who had been shooting since he was a kid, making her feel worse about her lack of skill. But something in his expression stopped her. There was no condescension there, no smug superiority, just a genuine offer to help. "I guess," Sarah said. "I mean, I'm clearly not doing something right." The man smiled slightly. "I'm Marcus, by the way. Marcus Chen." "Sarah Mitchell." Marcus moved closer, staying carefully behind the firing line. "Do you mind if I watch you take a few shots? Sometimes it's easier to see what's happening from a different angle." Sarah nodded and turned back to face downrange. She raised her pistol, trying to ignore the fact that someone was watching her inevitable failure. She aimed, squeezed the trigger, and once again sent a round nowhere near where she intended. "Okay, stop for a second," Marcus said. "Can I ask you something? Why did you start shooting? You don't have to answer if you don't want to." Sarah hesitated, then decided there was no point in hiding it. "Someone broke into my apartment. I was there. The police got him, but I realized I had no way to protect myself. I don't ever want to feel that helpless again." Marcus nodded slowly. "That makes sense. But here's the thing I'm noticing. You're so tense right now that you're shaking. Your shoulders are up around your ears, and you're holding that pistol like it's going to explode in your hands. Your body is in fight or flight mode, and that's making it impossible to shoot accurately." "But I need to be able to shoot when I'm scared," Sarah said. "That's the whole point. If someone breaks in again, I'm going to be terrified." "You're absolutely right," Marcus agreed. "But you can't learn to shoot under stress until you can shoot well when you're calm. Right now, you're practicing being tense and inaccurate. You're literally training yourself to miss." Sarah felt a flash of defensiveness, but she forced it down. He was right. She could feel how tight every muscle in her body was. "So what do I do?" she asked. "First, let's work on relaxation," Marcus said. "I know that sounds counterintuitive, but trust me. Set the gun down for a minute." Sarah placed her pistol on the bench, still pointed down range as safety rules required. "Now, roll your shoulders back," Marcus instructed. "Good. Now shake out your hands. Take a deep breath and let it out slowly. Feel how your body relaxes when you exhale. That's the state you want to be in when you shoot." Sarah did as he said, and she was surprised at how much tension she had been holding without realizing it. "Better," Marcus said. "Now, here's something that might help. Instead of thinking about the threat, the danger, the bad guy, I want you to think about shooting as a precision task, like threading a needle or painting a tiny detail. It requires a calm, steady hand and a clear mind." "But what about in a real situation?" Sarah asked. "We'll get there," Marcus assured her. "But first, you need to build the foundation. Once you can shoot accurately when you're relaxed, then we can work on maintaining that accuracy under stress. But you can't skip the first step." Sarah nodded. It made sense, even if it wasn't what she wanted to hear. "Okay, pick up your weapon again," Marcus said. "But this time I want you to move slower. Deliberately slow. There's no rush. The target isn't going anywhere." Sarah picked up her pistol, moving more slowly than she usually did. "Good," Marcus said. "Now, I noticed you're focusing on the target. I want you to focus on your front sight instead. The target should be a little blurry. Your front sight should be sharp and clear." "But how will I know if I'm aimed at the target?" Sarah asked. "Your front sight will be centered on the blurry target," Marcus explained. "It seems backward." "Hey, but your brain is better at aligning things than you think. Trust the process." Sarah raised the pistol, forcing herself to slow down. She looked at the front sight, really looked at it. The target became less distinct, but she could still see it well enough to know where she was pointing. "Now, when you're ready, take up the slack in the trigger," Marcus said. "Slowly. You should feel some resistance." Sarah pressed the trigger gently until she felt it stop. "Okay, now from here, increase pressure gradually. Don't jerk it. Just a smooth, steady increase in pressure until the gun fires. You shouldn't know exactly when it's going to go off." Sarah concentrated on the front sight and slowly increased pressure on the trigger. The gun fired, and she was surprised. It had felt different, smoother somehow. "Bring your target in," Marcus said. And Sarah pressed the button and the target came forward. The last shot she had fired was closer to the center than any of her previous attempts. "See that?" Marcus said. "That's what happens when you slow down and focus on the fundamentals." "It's still not that close," Sarah said, but she couldn't keep a small smile off her face. "No, but it's better," Marcus pointed out. "And better is what we're looking for. Improvement, not perfection. Do it again." Sarah sent the target back out and repeated the process. Slow, deliberate, focus on the front sight, smooth trigger press. The shot was even better this time. They continued like this for the next 20 minutes. Marcus watched, occasionally offering small corrections. "Your grip is loosening after the shot. Keep it firm throughout." You're anticipating the recoil and pushing the gun down slightly. Let the gun recoil naturally. Your breathing is getting rapid again. Slow it down." With each magazine, Sarah could see the improvement. Her groups were getting tighter, more centered. She wasn't going to win any competitions, but for the first time in months, she felt like she was actually learning. Finally, Marcus checked his watch. "I hate to cut this short, but I need to get some of my own practice in. Do you mind if I use my lane?" "Of course," Sarah said quickly. "Thank you so much for your help. I can't believe the difference already." "You're doing great," Marcus said. "Just remember, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Master the fundamentals at a slow pace, and speed will come naturally." He returned to his own lane and began setting up a rifle. Sarah had never seen one quite like it. It was black and tactical looking, with various attachments and modifications that she didn't understand. She turned back to her own practice, not wanting to be nosy. As she fired another magazine, she could hear Marcus shooting next to her. The sound was much louder than her pistol, each shot a sharp crack that echoed across the range. When she glanced over, she saw that he had moved his target much farther back than hers, at least 75 yards away. Sarah finished her magazine and brought her target forward. Her last grouping was the best yet, most of the shots within a 6-inch circle around the center. She felt a genuine sense of accomplishment. She was reloading when she heard Marcus set down his rifle with a frustrated sigh. That surprised her. From what she had seen, and he was an exceptional shooter. What could he possibly be frustrated about? Marcus walked over to the rangemaster's station and asked for something. Sarah couldn't hear the conversation, but she saw the rangemaster shake his head apologetically. Marcus returned to his lane, looking at his rifle thoughtfully. Sarah hesitated, then spoke up. "Everything okay?" Marcus looked over and gave a wry smile. "Yeah, just trying to diagnose a problem. My rifle is shooting about 2 inches to the left at 75 yards. I think it's the scope, but I need to eliminate other variables first. I was hoping to borrow a different scope to test, but they don't have any that fit this mounting system." "Is 2 inches a big problem?" Sarah asked. "At 75 yards? Not huge," Marcus admitted. "But at 300 yards? That becomes 8 inches or more. And where I might be going, that kind of error could be the difference between mission success and failure." "Where you might be going?" Sarah asked, then quickly added, "Sorry, that's probably classified or something." Marcus shrugged. "I'm a Navy SEAL. I ship out in 2 weeks for a deployment that will likely involve some precision shooting at distance. I need to make sure my equipment is dialed in perfectly before I go." Sarah's eyes widened. "A Navy SEAL? Like actual special forces?" "That's us," Marcus said with a slight smile. "Wow," Sarah said. "That explains the shooting.